It can be hard knowing who to trust with your money. If you're like me, you've had years of people telling you that the state pension won't be worth anything when you get it. You may have ended up with a distrust of corporations from your parents' horror stories about endowments and pensions that didn't perform as promised. That is the real problem. No one can promise what your money will be worth in 10 to 20 years' time, except if you keep it in a savings account earning no interest and being eaten up by inflation. And that leaves you stuck between a rock and a hard place. On one hand, you want to grow your wealth and benefit from that seventh wonder of the world, compounded growth. But on the other, you'd hate for another Philip Green to take your life savings and disappear into the sunset. So when you're choosing to invest for future growth, how do you minimise the risk of it all going wrong and maximise the chances of being seriously wealthy as you get older? Hi, I'm Claire, money coach and qualified financial advisor. For the last 14 years, I've been working in the financial services sector and I run a successful financial services business. I'm here to help you walk into wealth, enriched, empowered and excited. I've built my dream life and now I'm going to help you build yours. And remember, if you have any questions, post them below this video, because at the end of the video each week, I always answer one viewer's question and it could be yours. So let's get on with today's show. You're going to need to make a choice. As a business owner, you won't get an employee pension. You don't need to be part of Nest, but you do need to take responsibility for your own financial arrangements, either on your own or with the help of a qualified financial advisor. So what do you need to know to make some sensible choices? Let's take a look at the typical pathway to selecting an investment, or more than one, to actually grow your wealth further. Firstly, you look to diversify. Put simply, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yes, you could pick the next Microsoft, but equally you could pick the next Betamax video. There's a lot of chat about Bitcoin at the moment, but like any other single stock, it's a risky place to put your long-term savings because you risk wiping everything out in one go, which will feel just as bad as physically being robbed. For the best outcome, you should aim to invest in at least 65 to 100 different companies, more if possible, so that if one fails, you don't lose all your money. And ensure that your shares and assets are not just UK based, include some from other places around the world too, because as one market goes up, another may go down and it will all help balance out the risk over time. The easiest way to do this is to use a collective investment. These are funds that use a wide range of shares, bonds, rental property, etc. and effectively you buy shares in the fund. The fund will either be actively managed with a fund manager who chooses what's inside, or will be a passive index tracker. Index trackers follow the movement of a specific index, like the FTSE 100, by buying shares in a range of popular companies and are largely controlled by computer. They're both available with a different range of combinations, allowing you to take more or less risk depending on your personal preference. You can also choose funds that are ethically and sustainable focused, or even Sharia compliant funds if that is your thing. What has stopped you so far from investing your money? Is it fear or simply being unsure as to your next steps and the best way forward? Let me know in the comments below. So once you've selected the fund that meets your risk appetite, you need to decide how you're going to hold your investment, which means you need to choose a wrapper for your fund. Although you can hold them in a simple investment account, this means you'll often be paying more tax than you need to, either now or in years to come. Most people use a pension or an ISA wrapper for their investments. A pension will give you tax relief on your contributions. Every £100 you put in has £25 added free by HMRC, but you can't take the money out until you're 55. And honestly, if you see anything that says that you can, it is a scam. You'll also be liable to pay some tax on the money when you take it out of the pension in the future. An ISA has no upfront tax relief, but all the money you take out and all the profit is tax-free. So it can be a really good way of supplementing your income in retirement without paying any more tax. And you can take it out before age 55 if you need to, but like all investments, it's best to leave the money invested for 5 to 10 years or more before you go to withdraw it. And you know how the statutory wording goes. Past growth is not a reliable indicator of future growth. What goes up must come down. You know how it goes. But if you look at the past, from 1925 to 2018, there is a general upwards trend over the long term. So you now need to set up your regular monthly payment into your investment product. If you're still here and you're finding this useful information, Please consider subscribing and hit the bell too so you get notified when new videos are uploaded. So when do you start saving this? When do you set this up? Start as early as you can. The sooner you start, the longer your money has to grow. Even if it's just a small amount, £100 or so each month that you regularly pay in. It also means by paying regularly that you take advantage of the fluctuation of the unit price, meaning that each month you buy more units when the price goes down and fewer units when the price goes up, which means it averages out better over the year than trying to choose the best time to invest your money into your fund. Like the old saying goes, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. Just £100 a month invested in a fund that's growing at 7% a year, which is quite typical for an index tracker, is going to get you around £123,000 in 30 years' time. And if you invested £240 a month into a pension for your child until they were 18, and then they continue to pay £180 a month, they could retire with a pot worth about £1 million. It's to do with compounding and reinvesting of dividends, which means you can build quite a sizable sum over time. Now don't panic if your pension pot is empty, you're really not alone there, and there are lots of options still open to you. It's often something that gets pushed to the back burner as we get on with growing our business, paying off our debts, and then we start to look at this bank account with money in and know that it's time to do something with it. To open a pension or a stocks and shares ISA, you can go online and select a reputable self-managed platform, or you can get help from a qualified financial advisor like me to make sure that you 100% have the right product at the right risk level for your needs. But whichever path you choose, remember you need to be prepared to tie your money up for at least 5 years. This is long-term growth, not get rich quick. Okay, time for today's Ask Claire question, which comes from Karen. I've heard you can buy property with your pension. Is this a better type of asset to consider? The answer is, you're right. Property can be held within a pension, but it needs to be commercial property. So it's usually used for people who want to buy an office or a unit to work from. The business pays rent from the property to the pension fund, which increases the value of your pension over time. And hopefully, the price of the building will go up over time too. Now the problem is that when you come to retirement and you want to take your money out, the bulk of it is tied up in that property and you won't get it out until you can get a buyer and you've sold the property. The other thing to consider is that you can only buy a property with the money that's actually in your pension pot. You can get some borrowing, like a mortgage, but only up to the value of 50% of whatever's in your pot. So if your pension pot is currently £100,000, you could buy a property worth up to £150,000 if you can get the borrowing that you need. I hope this has helped you to take one step closer to the life you really want. So check out my other video.